Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hi, my name is Hanifah Binti Mohamad Kasfi and my matrix number is A17MB 0172. My supervisor name is Dr. Nurul Farahana Binti Noordin. Welcome to my video presentation of my final year project on topic of personality and online learning stress among psychology students in UTM. Students and stress are inseparable. The student confinement has forced students to change from the traditional educational method of learning towards online learning, while the Malaysian government has decided to ensure all students to continue studying with the modernization way of learning, which is the online learning. Over the years, since the curfew and students need to study independently at home, there have been numerous or an increased number of online learning stresses that students perceive they have experienced among students at higher education institutions. The struggle to achieve a higher level of academic performance can somehow produce academic stress and lead to a student with low academic performance. Research indicates that the increasing amount of stress poses a serious problem for many students at university level. Despite other factors like academic environment, workload, and peer expectations, students' personality traits also play an important role in the level of perceived stress among psychology students in UTM. It has been observed that levels of academic stress among psychology students in UTM vary according to their personality traits. The current study is mainly focusing on the relationship between personality traits and online learning stress among psychology students at University Technology of Malaysia. Since the day of COVID started in 2019, many students in Malaysia use online learning as their platform of study and go to class. There are also a lot of students who rabble about how good or bad it is to use online learning platforms. Some perceive higher stress while attending online classes and some do not. Thus, people should look into why particular personality traits affect how students act when stressed on a learning platform. Next, why do we need to conduct this study? Other than thinking that this is a way that we want to try to understand how the students' feelings, the real problem is, it is considered the obstacle of online learning does enhance the stress amongst university students. This is because of the low degree of positive engagement with the environment of face-to-face class and the sensation of isolation that constantly happens during online learning classes, which has created most of the students socially sad learners in which stress. Then, the second is there is insufficient amount of this study related to personality and online learning stress in developing countries. We believe, therefore, it is crucial for this to be conducted and completed. Okay, next we go through the research objective, in which would the same as these research questions. The first objective is to determine the personality traits among psychology students in UTM. The second one is to identify the level of online learning stress among psychology students in UTM. And the third one is to identify the relationship between personality traits and the online learning stress among psychology students in UTM. Here, we move on to the previous study, which I focuses more on these four studies earlier. These studies coming from local studies and also international studies. Four of these studies showing a comparative result, as in some have said, the higher the agreeableness, the lower the stress. And some also believe that the higher the neuroticisms, the higher the results of the online learning stress level. With this previous study, we believe that we have come towards the independent variables and the dependent variable. For the independent variable, which is the personality, I use the ocean model, or also known as the Big 5 personality trait by John and Srivastava on 1999. And the dimension of this independent variable is the openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroverted, agreeableness, and the neuroticisms. Meanwhile, for the dependent variable, which is the online learning stress, for this variable, we did not have the exact and prominent meaning of online learning stress, so then we came out with a scale for assessing academic stress, which have 5 dimensions on the affective, physical, cognitive, interpersonal, or social, and motivational indicator, which developed by Dr. Uday, Dr. Viva, and Dr. Mahendra on 2001. With these variables and previous study results, we have came with 5 research hypotheses. The hypothesis 1, there is significant negative relationship between openness and online learning stress. And the second hypothesis is there is a significant negative relationship between extraversion and online learning stress. The third one is there is a significant positive relationship between conscientiousness and online learning stress. And the fourth is there is a significant negative relationship between agreeableness and online learning stress. And the last one, there is a significant positive relationship between neuroticism and online learning stress among psychology students in UTM. Move on to the research methodology. The research design that we use is Google Form questionnaire, and the data collected will be in quantitative. Our method to analyze this data is by using cross-sectional study and correlational study. For the population and sampling, we use convenient sampling with a population of 323 psychology students in UTM and only 180 sample size of respondents who answered the survey. For the data analysis, we use FSSH version 23, while for descriptive analysis, we use mean, frequency, percentage, and standard deviations, while for the inferential analysis, we use Pearson correlation. Next, the research finding. For the first objective in which to determine the personality traits among psychology students, it has found that among psychology students, most students in psychology courses tend to have moderate level of personality traits. It seems that the students have low tendency to show their inner self of their personality. The highest mean score among the personalities is openness with 3.5 mean, with the lowest mean score personality among the psychology with 3.31 mean score. Next, we go for the second research finding for the objective 2, which is to identify the level of online learning stress among psychology students in UTM. The result has shown that most students in psychology courses tend to have moderate level of also in their online learning stress, which is the highest mean score for this finding goes to the effective indicator with the total mean score of 3.64. While the lowest mean score goes to the motivational indicators with the total mean of 2.92. Furthermore, we went to the third research. This is a summary of the correlational study, which is the correlation results between personality traits and online learning stress among psychology students at UTM. Result shows that openness and extraversion dimension have a significant negative relationship between personality and online learning stress, while the rest do not. This is due to the significant negative values of over than 0.05, which is the extraversion with 0.011 and the neuroticism with 0.00. Thus, the smaller the p-value, the stronger the evidence that we have rejected. A p-value that less than 0.05 is statistically significant because it indicates a strong evidence against the null hypothesis, as there is less than 5% probability to null. Therefore, we have rejected the null hypothesis and accept the alternative hypothesis. However, that is not a 95% accuracy for this evidence to be true. This may due to some of the limitations of these studies. There is a significant negative relationship between conscientiousness and neuroticism. Meanwhile, agreeableness dimensions are not being used because of a weak correlation was found between the agreeableness and the online learning stress between the dimensions during the first reliability test. A significant correlation between openness to experience extraversion and online learning stress in the study showed a significant value of 0.857 and 0.011. Focusing on the Pearson correlation, or also known as the R value of the openness to experience dimensions, 0.189 shows a positive correlation, and the R value of the extraversion indicates 0.014 positive correlations too. A positive correlation means the higher the extraversion, the lower the online learning stress among psychology students at UTM. The higher the openness to experience, the lower the level of stress that students were experiencing. So the current studies finding revealed that the undergraduate students measuring psychology with universal development have a moderate level of online learning stress during the lockdown. It was found that the students perceive a moderate level of online learning stress because of the low degree of positive engagement and the sensations of isolations and constantly which happens to have during their online learning classes. This has created most of the students socially as well as sad learners. Thus, we want to confirm the argument of earlier research by Al-Kumain on exploring the impact of transformations to fully online learning during COVID-19 on Malaysian university students' academic life and performance. It further supports the Big Five theory, which argues that personality traits affect how one perceives their environment. Upon further analysis, it was found that the openness to experience has a significant negative relationship with online learning stress. With this, we state that hypothesis 1 and hypothesis 2 of the study was accepted, which the higher the level of openness to experience and the extraversion personality among students, the lower the stress they will perceive in their online learning. Now we move on to the study's limitations. It is include the gender differences. There is no gender differences we investigated. And while the researcher must not only use a questionnaire which may lead to an inaccurate findings owing to the time constraints, that there was no investigation into disparities between male and females. This is due to the fact if we just use one questionnaire, which may result in conclusions that are not accurate due mainly to time limitations. And as well for that, the sample size was constrained only towards the undergraduate students from psychology courses in UTM. Actually, we will have many recommendations towards the betterness of the study in the future, but to summarize it, both students, men and women, have different perspectives on the world. Thus, it is important to understand the differences between them by doing investigations focusing on the disparities. It is suggested to combine quantitative and qualitative methodologies for this kind of study to increase the number of populations in order to accommodate more people to participate in the study itself. Last but not least, as a closure for this research, the general finding and explanation of this research most likely due to the mandatory curfew and that the students are learning through online learning. We would like to advise that it is better to manage stress, engagement in coping strategies and prevent further psychological consequences, where an online stress management programs are highly recommended. It is necessary to conduct a longitudinal assessment of psychological disorder such as depression and anxiety to develop evidence-based mental health interventions for future crises. Furthermore, because this is the first survey on personality and online learning stress for student majoring in psychology with human resource development, the result could serve a baseline for further research into the stressor and the extent to which they impact. And well, it is hoped that this study can become a pacemaker to more study on the personality and online learning stress in higher educations. And that's all from me. Assalamualaikum.